Okay, so in this video we are going to discuss the difference between the freshwater drownings and the seawater drownings. So what is the difference between the freshwater drownings and the seawater drownings? We start with the pathophysiology. So what happens? First, there is the entry of water into the alveoli, diffuses to the systemic circulation. So when there is the movement of water from the lungs alveoli to the systemic circulation, it will cause the hemodilution, increase the afterload of the hearts and the swelling of RBC, followed by bursting of RBC, which release the potassium ion, cause hyperkalemia, and this potassium ion blocks the sodium channels, inhibits the depolarization in a myocardial tissue, which causes the ventricular fibrillation, and finally the death of the person will occur. So this is the pathophysiology of what? Freshwater drownings. First, there is the entry of water into the alveoli. From alveoli, this water enter into the systemic circulation, cause hemodilution, bursting of RBC, release potassium ion. Potassium ions blocks the sodium channel, inhibits the ventricular depolarization, and when the ventricular depolarization is inhibited, I mean ventricular contraction ability get inhibited, so there is no pumping of bloods, and when there is no pumping of bloods, finally the person will die. The second things, what happens in case of seawater drownings? So in case of seawater drownings, as water enter into the alveoli, from alveoli, this seawater, the salt concentration is more than the systemic circulation. So now the reverse flow of water from systemic circulation to lungs alveoli, and here the alveoli are they are filled with water. Mostly the lungs alveoli are the filled with waters, while in case of fresh water drownings, most of the alveoli are the filled with air. So this is the common difference between the seawater drownings and the freshwater drownings. Here what happens when there is the hemodilution, which decrease the electrolytes level, so obviously it causes the hyponatremia, while in case of the seawater drownings there is hemo concentration, and whenever there is the hemo concentration it causes the hyponatremia. Heavy water, okay, so what are the shape of the lungs, I mean consistency of the lungs? In case of seawater drownings, the lungs alveoli are mostly filled with air. So when the lungs alveoli are the mostly filled with air, they are light weighted, and it is called emphysematous lungs. Whenever the lungs alveoli are they are what? Hyperinflated. This hyperinflation of the lungs alveoli are because of there is the excessive accumulation of water into the lungs alveoli. So whenever there is the hyperinflated lungs alveoli are present, we call it is the emphysematous lungs. Here due to the lungs, I mean air trappings. But in case of the seawater drownings, these alveoli are the filled with waters, and when the alveoli are the filled with waters, it increase the weight of lungs. Consistency are the soft and the jelly likes. So that's why here the returns more water contents in the lungs alveoli, balloon shape with heavy weights, less water contents, and crepitus is what happens when the lungs alveoli in case of the freshwater drownings, they are filled with air. So during the post-mortems, as we cut the lungs alveoli, the air is escaped out. So due to the escaping out of air from the lungs alveoli, this crepitus will hurt. Here the lungs alveoli are the mostly filled with the water, so there is no possibility for hearing of the crepitus. After discussing the crepitus, the next thing is the cause of death. Here the underlying cause of death is the entry of water into the alveoli. Intermediate cause is the asphyxia, and the immediate cause is the ventricular fibrillation. Here the also the underlying cause will be same, that is the entry of water into the alveoli. Intermediate cause is circulatory shocks, and the immediate cause is the myocardial anoxia and the cerebral anoxia. Okay.